What's up, YouTube? Today we have another live coaching session for YouTube, and we have our client here today. And based on what the client shared with me in the intake form, it's simply figuring out what you want. So today, let's spend a little time talking about figuring out what we want. But from your words, could you describe what brought you into this session?
Sure. So I think just an overall sense of I've always been trying to absorb as much information as I can just to kind of in my mind I might see something that will go, oh, that's what it is. Um, and so this is another, I guess, step of figuring that out. I've been reading and living my life and just talking to people and noticing my own feelings, maybe some envy that I feel. Because in my mind, envy is like, okay, if I am jealous of that, there's something there that I want.
Hmm.
Just noticing things like that. And it's been kind of a struggle because you think you want something and then you kind of get it and you're like, ah, this is empty. And you just kind of keep almost like consuming and consuming until something happens, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Something I like to do when I find that, oh, I thought this would be it, but then no. And then maybe this would be it, no. Maybe this would be it, no. Something I like to do when I find myself getting into multiples of these isolated incidents where I get disappointed is try to piece together a pattern in them, right? So when we observe a single instance of something, it's kind of difficult to see the pattern because I'm only seeing one sample, right? But the reason why we care so much about data these days is it allows us to see a pattern, right? Okay, so based on the things that you have sought and then obtained, but then turned out to be not much, and then you did it again and again, do you find any pattern in that?
Um, I think if there is a pattern, I'm just too kind of stubborn and hard-headed to notice it. Like, for example,
Hmm.
let's say sexual satisfaction, for an example. I'll chase the satisfaction and there's a pleasure and an intensity and anticipation. The act obviously makes you feel kind of alive. And then there's in my case, regret and kind of like, what was all that for? Like, why did I
Mm-hmm.
spend all that time and energy on that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's not that I learn anything from time to time. It's more like I forgot that whole drama of the anticipation, intensity, and then regret. It's just
Yep.
so much time has passed where you just kind of forget. And
Yep.
so I don't
Yep.
think there is a learning in between that. It's just kind of you forget, make the same mistake, forget. But
Mm-hmm.
slowly, I think very slowly, I've been kind of okay. This is kind of empty and
Yeah. Yeah.
reducing that. Yeah.
So something that my teacher always says is when we make rouse when we make mouse traps, right? The bait has to be something that the mouse likes, right? But that's precisely what makes the trap set off. Okay, so why I'm mentioning this to you is I think people say yes, sexual pleasure is something that we all like. Sure, I understand that it's a mass appeal, right? So, like a really nice fried something, deep frying anything makes anything taste generally good, right? And so, yes, generally we have a lot of mutually agreed upon consensus on what things are generally nice. But things actually, when we look at them, we like or dislike something based on very personal preferences. So, like sexual gratification or physical pleasure is like a blanket statement. But while that's nice, a part of it is like cheese on a mousetrap. Like there's a personal allure to it. So based on what I've seen from client experiences, I'll let you know like what example I'm thinking of. So I know I work with a client who is in their 40s, right? And they're married, but they keep finding themselves kind of like over infatuating over other females. So, like, but never really acted upon. It's just that psychologically, there's a lot of lean into it. But then, like, it's easy to brush that off as like, oh, guys, we just like, like looking at other girls. But deep down, there was an incident where this person was like a little bit overweight and not that attractive when they were young, right? And then they kind of like worked out and then they got really attractive and then life kind of started turning around, but they never really recovered from that feeling like they're constantly unattractive. They're kind of still in that phase of like I want to prove to the beautiful people that I am also beautiful. And so that was underneath, which is a really personal reason why like this blanket statement of a physical pleasure feels good turns into infatuation, right? So now like I'm asking you to kind of like reflect upon like not just this particular example, but like based on individual observation of like, oh, wait, like this was good for this reason, but it turned out to be disappointing. Like when we look at incidents of that, what do you perceive as something that you generally yearn for personally?
I know you said not to reference too much of an example, but that example's in my mind right now of sexual gratification. I would say in that example, I was trying to fornicate my way to intimacy and love, I guess. So if I were to perform well enough, I would be attractive in that kind of situation. I think that's why I was chasing it so much. Um, but in regards to kind of what I'm looking for here, it's what I yearn for, I guess. It's I life feels inherently incredibly frustrating and like you are fighting winds walking uphill, and I'd like it to feel less like that. I
Hmm.
don't know what the alternative is, but less of that kind of feeling in every, I guess, facet of one's life. So work, relationship, sex, all that type of thing. It definitely feels like I don't know if you've heard about this and where you're from, but a lot of older people will pretend like, for example, I walk to school uphill both with like that type of thing when they pretend how hard their life was. That's what my life feels like in terms of I'm walking uphill both ways with like wind in my face and ice on the ground, that type of thing. I'd like to feel
Yes.
less like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think these, what you just said and what you said before that, like I think these kind of tie in together, right? Okay. So when everything is so hard, like we just want to catch a break, right? Like if we're like a 5 minute break to a person who is already spending their Sunday on a sofa doesn't really mean anything. But if you're working at a warehouse or like if you're working at a farm and you haven't done picking your things yet, but like you just get a 5 minute break, it's like, oh my God, finally you catch a little break, right? But then breaks are good, but what the ends of the breaks mean? It means you have to start grinding again, right? So like yes, when we fall into like snacking, when we fall into like resting, when we fall into trying to have pleasure ourselves or like have sex, these things like they're so attractive because it gives us a break from this constant like grind, but it actually accentuates the emptiness of those experiences because after that you still have to go back to the grind, right?
Mm.
So like the people who are most tired and the people who are most like used to grinding yearn for those reliefs so much, but the reliefs always tend to be temporary because they're so accustomed and their life is so situated around the grind. So it's kind of like the nice thing is it's kind of like two birds with one stone. When you stop thinking of life itself as a grind, then relief from the grind has less appeal. And because relief from the grind has less appeal, you don't over invest into the relief, therefore you feel less empty afterwards, right? But which motivates the question, like, why is life so hard?
Um, I guess I'm starting to see kind of where the train of thought's going for me, where I see life as kind of a competition. I fundamentally do think of it that way. Even when people are collaborating, there is a I guess, an individual element to it. You know, who
Mm,
collaborates more, who does, right? That type of thing. Even in collaboration, it is competitive. So, anyways, I do find this thing to be competitive, and I feel like I've been set back due to unfortunate childhood experiences, and so I feel this need to kind of catch up because, especially in the circles I'm in, it definitely, it's very obvious to everyone involved that I am not doing as well. I guess, yeah,
mm, mm.
and so I'm working to improve.
So there's a part of you that really is strongly convinced that you're not good enough.
I think it has evidence. Yeah.
Okay. And because of that, like, how can you be, like, how can you not work when you know that when there's all these proofs that you're not doing good enough?
I've made like poor choices, I guess. Yeah, that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now I could spend some more time telling you about, don't think about it that way. Everybody is like, but I'm sure we're gonna get to it. But before that, I want to ask a more fundamental question, right? Why do we need to win? What does winning allow for us?
I guess that might be a personal question. I think that's where you're leading it. It's relief for me, I guess.
Yeah,
Relief
so
from the grind and the competition. Yeah.
mm-hmm. Right. So like suppose you end up becoming better than all your peers and then you get number one in the leaderboard, right? Like it's good, right? But what's the purpose of it? Like what is different about reaching that versus a temporary relief from your suffering? Like what's the difference?
I think and I guess in the leaderboard analogy, I would say being number one implies that you have the capacity and power to weather these storms. As I mentioned, walking uphill in the wind, you have the capacity to weather that storm. So it's not as bad.
Interesting. So it's kind of like you need that uphill wind to prove yourself that you can be number one, right?
I'm creating the wind, is kind of what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is like if you're a leaderboard in number one in kindergarten, it's kind of meaningless to you, right?
Hmm.
You want to be the leaderboard in something that's really challenging and like really worthwhile, right?
Which makes the rest of my life easier because I can do this very difficult thing. Yeah.
Right, right, right. So precisely that it's what creates meaning for you. So the grind is what makes meaning for you, but because of that, you have to invite more grind into your life, right? Because
I guess because it never ends. Yeah.
yeah. So even if you are number one right now, somebody else might take it. That's how leaderboards generally work, right? You
Sure.
have to have you have to take somebody's place for you to be number one.
Yeah.
So it's this perpetual cycle. Even if you do get number one, like you said, it's a temporary relief, right? Because again, you have to keep proving to yourself. You have to keep proving to yourself, right?
There's no finality to
Exactly.
making it or winning.
There is no finality to it. So that's why I'm asking, why do you seek this thing that has no finality?
Yeah. Um. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like losing has finality, but winning doesn't, which is weird. It's very unfair or asymmetrical.
Exactly, right? That's just how the grind is created. But I think like the question that I'm really trying to get you to see, unconsciously, is we feel like if we do get what we want, we could be happy, right? What's the point of being a billionaire if I'm not happy? What's the point of living to I'm 120 years old if I'm not happy, right? What's the point of getting married and then, having kids if I'm not happy? Like, we all want these things, but the end goal, I think, in human life, end goal is we see the things that we want as a means to happiness, right? So, when I was a kid, oh, if I had my bike, I would be so happy, mom. Like, can I please just buy me a bike? And then my mom figuratively just said, I'll buy it to you after 100 days. She didn't literally mean 100 days, but she just figuratively, like, as a long time later. But she didn't know how persistent I would be. So, like, every day I counted down and then she just bought the bike for me, right? So,
Yeah.
and then I was like, okay, I thought my life is done. Like, I have what I need, and this is all I need. My life, but, spoiler alert, doesn't work like that. I have other needs too that I want satisfied. And what happens? I even forget that I have a bike. I stop riding it, right? Turns out it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I outgrow the bike because I was still growing. And going around circles in the same Korean suburban neighborhood is not really that fun. So, we think we need the bike for happiness. So, the real question that I wanted to ask you is, would it be impossible for us to be happy without being number one in the leaderboard? Would it be happy for us? Like, would it be possible for us to be happy while sucking at something?
Yeah, but I think then you've changed the leaderboard to something else, I guess. That's my kind of belief. Instead of, for example, if you don't care, if you just, let's use a leaderboard, you're grinding to be number one in a game
Mm-hmm.
and you want to be happy grinding, you've now changed the leaderboard for, I don't care about being the best at the game, I care about some other metric, like I'm the best at improving or I'm the best at like dealing with uncertainty or frustration. I feel like that just gets rechanneled somewhere else. I don't know if that ever really escapes or it
Okay.
leaves in my mind.
Yeah. So I think you perfectly explained what most people fall into. It's either, well, you know what? In that case, I don't care. You can do whatever the fuck you want. Like that kind of a apathy,
Hmm.
or I have to grind. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna do whatever it takes. But there's a middle ground between those two extremes, right? Like, oh crap, I needed to play better at that time. But what happened then? Okay. Hmm. Okay. So at that time, there was a bit of a shortcoming. Like my attention lapsed, and then I couldn't perform that maneuver. Okay. So how do I improve upon this? So this is still participating in the improvement, and like this is still in pursuit of the leaderboard number one, right? But how I described it just now is very different from, you stupid fucker, how can you miss that opportunity? Oh man, if you fucking did that, then I would have been, my rank would have raised like 20. I failed the clutch again. I'm so fucking stupid, right?
Hmm.
So both are oriented towards improving, but one is self-abusive while another is happy, right? And I think right now I need to explain what I mean by happy. And happy, in the sense that I know it, is the Buddhist happiness, which is not suffering. So we think happiness is from the baseline mood, or from our baseline mood, we think happiness is a state of upwards, like excitement, right? But ultimately, whatever comes up has to come down, right? But we experienced the high before. So even if we return back to the default, it feels like a step back. And what do people who like grinds hate the most? Stepping back. When I should be stepping 2 steps forward, I took 1 step back. Now I have 3 more steps to go, right? And people who grind hate that feeling.
Yeah,
But
life should feel like a graph that slowly goes like up versus
exactly.
all over the place, which you know
Yeah.
that
Like
is frustrating.
I have to go so much up, but oh man, but I went backwards and this fucking sucks, right? So that's why, when you play games and you're playing season placements, it's so like nerve-wracking, right? That's why a lot of people have like ranked anxiety. when they're about to hit legend on Hearthstone, like they start like, miscalculating lethal and then, it's crazy. But when we go through a rough patch in life, we find that just not having that rough patch feels so nice. So, do we appreciate the fact that we can talk like this and breathe like this normally? No. But when we have a fucking sick cold and our throat is like all inflamed and there's like mucus flying everywhere, what do we really just want? We just want to be able to breathe like a normal human being, right? We want to be able to speak like this without our voice going like this. So we don't appreciate these things when we have them, right? Like, I have I got a scab right here because I heard it from somewhere. Like, what do we want the most? Just having good skin. But what do we do when we have good skin? We don't think about it, right?
Yep.
Oh, like, do we think about our mom? We do when she's about to pass away. And when our moms pass away and we think about her like, oh man, I wish she was here. But do we think like, oh my God, I'm so happy my mom's alive every time she's alive? No, right?
Yep.
So unfortunately, people tend to realize that they have all the reasons to be happy after they're gone. So, grind wise, just the fact that you still have something to work on is something you can be thankful for and happy for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, most people lose it and then lament. Oh, I should have appreciated when I had it back.
Yeah.
So, in terms of going back to the central question, right? Which is figuring out what you want. You want to be number one in the leaderboards.
Be good enough to be top 10, whatever it is. Yeah.
Be good enough to be top 10. So you
Yep.
still want that. But now, again, like that's a personal choice. Like I'm not one to say that's a bad life decision, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
so I don't play golf. But golfers, their life goal is to be the best golfer, right? That's their personal choice. I'm not anyone in the place to say like that's a really stupid goal. Like your entire life revolves around the ball game, you know?
Yeah.
It's a really like dismissive tone to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems like you know what you want, which is to be, good in the rank, right?
Well, when I say leaderboards, I want to make this clear. We've used a lot of game analogies.
Yep, yep.
It's not actually for video games. So it is for me. It's like all this spiritual stuff, all this development stuff is again the narrative I have in my head. If I had these psychological difficulties, a lot of issues as a kid, I am trying to become, let's call it human flourishing,
Hmm.
reaching one's potential, being top 10 in that. That's what I mean by the leaderboard. So the grind is to get there,
Yes,
whatever
yes,
that is. And we discussed is, obviously it's not an end goal. It's maybe a state one can reach. What you described as that kind of baseline
yes.
happiness, I guess. Yes.
So, like, is the ultimate goal to try to transcend your experiences and then become the best human being you can be?
Um, Transcend my experiences and yeah, it's never been that clearly defined for me. It's just kind of this nebulous escape of
Mm,
the grind. Like I'm gonna grind hard enough to not have to grind anymore. Yeah.
okay.
So
It's kind of like passive income, right? Once I have enough money, like I can't never have not enough
sure,
money
yeah,
because the money keeps compounding, right?
yeah. The interest, yeah, just pays for everything else.
Yeah, so like you don't need to do any more economic activities, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
just need to live off of your interest.
Yes.
So we seek that kind of a payoff from life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, in other words, your goal of life is to not do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in order to not do anything, you have to do everything you can.
To get to a place where you don't have to do anything.
Yeah. So what similar question from before. But why do you want to not do anything?
Um, I want to not have to do things I don't want to do and find deeply unpleasant, I guess.
Right. So why not just not do them right now?
Um, I don't think I could do them for long without real life consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Not paying your bills as an example.
Right. So, but you see, you accept that it is possible to not pay your bills, right?
But yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can.
plenty of people get their services cut off, and like it is
They're fine.
theoretically possible, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But we don't want that.
Yes.
We want to be able to continue to pay for our things, right? But we want that without working for it,
Mm-hmm.
is what we want, right?
Yeah.
So we want us to be taken care of. But in that case, let's think a little bit about where everything comes from and how we're all interconnected, right? If I'm not doing economic activities and my bills get paid, who's paying for that bill?
Someone else.
Someone else, right? So I am ultimately responsible for cooking my own meals if I'm at home by myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I get takeout because I don't feel like cooking today, who makes the food?
Someone else.
Okay, good. We established that, right?
Yeah.
So if I get food from somebody else, it's good for me, right? But the other person, they made their food and then like they gave it to me without even having a bite of it or sharing it with me. So would you cook for me for no reason?
Um, we'd have to be really good friends, but
Right. For
obviously no. Yeah, right now no.
no, there's no reason for you to cook for and like completely give it to me, right? Because what makes eating out work is that I pay for it.
Yeah.
So there's an economic exchange that happens between values, right? If not, then I have to do it myself. Okay. So a life where I don't do anything and everything is taken care of because I've achieved that level really means you are seeking to live off of other people, right?
To rent-seeking behavior, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it would be nice if the money that I have accrued pays for all those services, right?
Yes.
But you see, I don't know if you're into philosophy, but like the Hegelian master servant dialogue, right?
Sure.
So the more the master will, utilizes the servant, the less powerful the master becomes because he doesn't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
And the more the servant picks up, the more the servant becomes powerful because they're the ones who knows how to do everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm trying to point out is your life goal is to give your power away.
Life goes good with that. So in this instance, figuring out what I want, it seems from how what we discussed, what I want is to give my power away.
Yeah, you want to be like a baby.
Yeah.
Mommy will feed you, mommy will change your diapers. Your, servant number one will come with another plate of, like snacks. Servant number two is going to clean up your, desk and other areas. So you become like, I don't know if you watched the movie Wall-E from Pixar.
Oh yeah, the fat guys in the hovering chairs and stuff.
Yeah, it's basically the life that we all are implicitly pursuing without even realizing, right?
It's a type of death, yeah.
Yeah. But like when we're going to our when we're driving to when you're commuting to work for like 2 hours on the traffic, you're like, oh fuck, I wish I had one of those like Wall-E, hoverboard. It is nice, right? There are certain parts of it are nice, right? And
Hmm.
when we're so busy and we don't have time to like really savor the sandwich that we packed, like we feel like, man, I wish I could just like IV inject my food into this, right? There are times when we're so rushed like that, and when we're so like underslept and like, oh my God, I only got like 3 hours of sleep last night. I wish I could just press a button and I feel well rested. So like there are parts of that Pixar dystopian future universe that are really appealing. But the more of those appealing features we collect, the more we just become hoverboard riding zombies, right?
And I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I think um, that vulnerability matters if it can be exploited. So those zombies, for example, they live in like I think it's like a wasteland. They have a ship above this planet of trash. There's no real threat to them, so they can remain zombies forever. If someone were to come along and try to, you know, works hard and tries to kind of command all of them, then they're in danger. But in my mind, it's like if there is no threat, then I can just be a baby, I guess, in your
Yeah,
analogy,
yeah,
because no one's gonna kill me. I can just be a little baby forever.
yeah,
Yeah.
right? So, but you brought up a very interesting point. The entire premise of Wall-E is that Wall-E is the one cleaning up the trash, right? But it's an insurmountable amount of trash. Why? Because it's one robot's job to take care of an entire planet, right? So, what I'm trying to get you to see is this entire value system that is focused around desire to be, a coddled baby. What does it lead to? Like, okay, so you think the servants who watch you get fed and washed and, cleaned up after, what would they want? They want to be you, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, like, I mean, when you work for somebody else, you're like, I wish I could have other people working for me, right?
Hmm.
And you admire this state of everything being taken care of because you are seeing it in real life, right?
Yeah.
So it's a system, it's a chain system of a value that keeps on reproducing itself, right?
What do you mean by reproducing itself?
So you admire somebody who has what you want. And I'm not, this applies to any other value system. You admire somebody who has what you want, and therefore you pursue to be like them.
Hmm.
But this system in particular requires people who are subservient to you to make this value system work.
Yes.
So when you become the next generation's leader, what will the people who, follow you want? To be you.
Yes.
And then it keeps self-reproducing, right? So before capitalism, like in the really tribal times, what was the best currency of power?
Being competent and useful
Being
and strength.
strong,
Yeah.
right? If you can beat the shit out of somebody, like you win, right? That's how things generally work, still work in the animal kingdom. So, what is the ultimate fate of all alpha wolves?
Leader of the pack, I guess.
Leader of the pack, and then eventually they get old, right?
Hmm.
And then younger alpha wolves come up. And then, or even if you're the alpha wolf, you still need to constantly fight with other wolves to prove that you're the alpha wolf, right?
Hmm.
And then you get old and then you fucking die because
Yeah.
another wolf who was so angry at you and has had enough of you finally got strong enough to dominate you and you got weak with age.
Yes.
So capitalism and our, pursuit of this state where everything is taken care of, giving our agency away to other people, is basically going to continue to reproduce it, but it will do so as a side effect. There's a lot of side effect of money being circulated, which is good for capitalism, but also like environmentally, there's going to be a lot of byproduct and waste because, like what if you start eating your, 10th caviar of the day, but you stop feeling like caviar and you throw it away, right? And you don't want your servants to eat your caviar because it's like precious, so you make them throw it away in the trash, right? This kind of stuff actually happens to rich people, right? And you don't want to commute anymore, right? And so when you want to go places, what are you going to do? Like Taylor Swift, you're going to take your private jet everywhere, right? And when you take your private jet, you need gas, right? And your people, your stewardesses, and they need to wear uniforms. And so basically, it's like this entire system that creates a lot of byproduct of waste, and it's basically the premise of WALL-E, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but why I'm trying to get you to think about this is, you're right that challenge begets begets some kind of a meaning to us. We strive for some things, and then that ends up giving meaning to us. But I'm not saying don't pursue those things. I'm not saying don't try to get your needs taken care of. No, getting your needs taken care of is important. But we established a life without challenge is just going to be vapid, right? But also, like you said, if there's no credible threat to anything, then what's the problem with being a baby, right? Okay. So now let's finally talk about the ultimate threat that everybody is going to have to face in their lifetime. You're gonna die. So the moment your life ends, a life spent in bed, watching Netflix all the time, flying to places you want to go to. Like, is that the life that you would like to reflect on
No, it
at the
seems
moment of
pretty.
your death,
No, it seems pretty empty. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, right? A life that you just spent grinding and grinding and grinding, and all you remember from your deathbed is your commute and how much you despise your coworkers and how much you regret you have about your past life choices. That is on the opposite end of it, bad, right? So ultimately, I'm trying to get you to orient your value system and your purpose of life in two directions, okay? Number one, happiness. Why? Because we keep pursuing things because what? It all comes down to happiness in the end. So I have a friend, I train jujitsu, right? And our jujitsu academy, we have like 10 classes per week. And I do 3, right? Because I'm getting old and my body can't withstand more training than 3. But a friend who recently got his blue belt told me, this is the first time in my personal record, like I trained 10 times this week. I'm like, that's really cool. That's really good, right? But why? Like, what's the point of, training 10 times? Well, I want to be good at jujitsu. Well, of course, everybody wants to be good at jujitsu. Like, who trains jujitsu? But why? What's the point? Like, you want to be as good as you can at the shortest amount of time. And then what? Good, you're the best person. You're the best person at this time. And then what? And this is how like all the jiu-jitsu athletes get burnt out. Like they win their competition, but they're like, now what? So, but we think that if we win the gold medals, if we win our purple belt, if we get our brown belt, if we get our black belt, we think we'll be happy. But happiness keeps chasing away. So, if the goal is happiness, why not be happy right now? And then work on whatever you want to do. So that's the first direction that I would like for you to think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second direction I want you to think about is the finality of the human life, memento mori, right? So throughout our life, throughout your life, I wish nothing but happiness to you. Happily, I want you to grind if you want to grind. Happily, I want you to relax if you want to relax. How you live your life is up to you. But as you happily live, the things that you are pursuing in happiness, how will you look back upon your deathbed? This current path that I am pursuing, if my life ends tomorrow, how will I reflect on it?
It's gonna sound weird, but I don't think I'd be happy, but I don't think I'd be super miserable either. I think I would just, if you, like in this analogy, if you told me I'm gonna die tomorrow, I'd just go for a walk, to be honest with you. That's what I would do.
Yeah,
I'd just go for a walk in one of my trails and just, that'd be it. But I don't know, because when I look back at my life, I don't think it was excellent. I don't think it was miserable. I think it was kind of this normal life of me trying to grind and be better. Yeah.
yeah. And if that is the case, then that is the kind of at least we're not suffering in the final moments of our time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is, hopefully, hopefully, I hope that our life will continue, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you will continue to adjust the direction of it and the course of your life, right? But today, with our conversation, what I really wanted to tell you is we had a fairly honest and earnest conversation about what we really want. I want, my life to be taken care of. But when we followed that trail of thought, we realized that, might be a little bit emptier than I thought, right? So what I'm asking you to do is, as you continue to adjust your path, have that in mind. Like the finality, keep that in mind. Like this, if I get what I want in this path, like, is it gonna be, am I going to be happy? Am I going to be proud of the life that I have lived? If so, like, good, let's continue doing what we're doing. I'm not saying, no, you're always gonna find the problem with it. No, turns out it's very balanced. So if I could, offer you happiness and eventual death, which is, it sounds grim, but it's the reality that everybody has to accept at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think those two concepts will be very, very, very helpful in orienting what is right for you at this particular moment in time.
So it's something you reflect on in the moment. It's not something you look at as overall arc of one's. Because over the years, I could look at it with like, oh, this was great. In the moment, I probably would have done something different if I looked at how I thought about this happiness and death concept you're talking about. And I look at it
Yes,
overall, it wasn't that bad because in every moment in time, we're changing how we evaluate what is happiness, how meaningful is death right now, that type of thing. So
exactly, right?
yeah.
So, like, nothing exists in a vacuum. Like, no one choice is absolutely right or wrong because everything is contextual, right? So, right now, I saw you mention this a few times. Right now, your interpretation of your past is not that ideal. But, if you hear instances of like a plane crash, right? And then you being the only survivor. So if we focus on the bad thing, it's like, oh man, my plane didn't go up. Like there's so many reasons you can, like choose to take that badly, right? But if like 382 people died and you're the only survivor, like are you likely gonna complain about that? Or are you gonna be like relishing in the fact that you're the luckiest person alive, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like I could trip and break my leg. I could cry about it, or I could be thankful for like, oh my god, I thank God I learned how to break fall and didn't fall with my head first. Because if I fell with my head first, I would have fucking died, right? And you hear stories about the 9/11 attacks, like the person who, missed their bus to work and then they didn't end up at the 9/11, right?
It's like that butterfly effect, yeah.
So what I'm saying is there will come there I mean, I hope you will see that there will come a point in time your life where you realize your life is actually perfect without changing anything about your life. Oh my god, because my childhood was like this, I get to experience this thing in this way. Holy fucking shit. And if I were born another way, if I didn't have that particular experience, I wouldn't be able to savor this moment like this. And I would not trade this for the world. You know what's funny? Today morning I was meditating. Um, and I was thinking, like, what if I hadn't met my wife? And what if I became a Buddhist in Korea? Because my Buddhist organization is in Korea, right? And I thought about it. I'm like, man, like right now I'm married, and right now, like I'm living, pretty civilian life, but I really want to become a monk, right? So I'm thinking, and today in my meditation, if I wasn't married and I was in Korea, then I think I would have been a monk. But no, it wouldn't work that way, right? If I was in
Was it?
Korea, because if I was in Korea, if I didn't meet my wife, if I didn't have my marriage, if I didn't have this kind of life after I met her, I wouldn't have all the experiences that I have accumulated here that has made Buddhism so precious to me. Right? I'm not saying my wife gave me a fucking difficult time and my wife is the reason I am suffering, but like all the life events that led me to Buddhism happened after I met my wife. So that's something to be really thankful for, right? Because I'm very happy that I found the Dharma. If I met the Dharma at the wrong time, but to be honest, there are so many times where I already met the Dharma at the wrong time. Korea is a very Buddhist country. I've been to so many temples in Korea, but I don't remember anything about them. And right now, as a Buddhist living in America, I'm like, my one regret is, oh my god, I should have really savored the field trips I went to all those like really old temples in Korea. Man, why wasn't I a Buddhist then? But, like that yearning makes me have a deeper passion for Buddhism, right? So everything all works out if I can just look at it in the right perspective.
I guess that begs the question, as you mentioned before, if it's all fine the way it is, and let's say you're able to get to a state where, despite all your experiences and failures, you can look at your life and okay, this is perfect. What is the next step? I guess let's say you're inclined to just do nothing for the next 3 years. Not call yourselves a baby, but just do nothing for 3 years. If that satisfies both the happiness and death part, I guess you're kind of implying, I guess you just do it because it doesn't, um, it's all going to work out regardless.
Yeah, there's no responsibility to life. You don't owe anyone anything, and that includes you. You don't owe yourself anything. You don't owe your life to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't owe your life to your mom. You don't owe your life to anybody who demands something out of you. Your boss can't make you work overtime without pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just like that, you don't owe yourself anything. If you're happy, what's the problem? Nothing. But again, we have the most wonderfully fulfilling meal. But what happens about after 6 hours?
You forgot about it.
You get hungry.
Yeah.
So, but that's how life works. Oh, today is a beautiful day. But what eventually happens? The sun goes down, right? The winter is so cold, but eventually what happens? Spring comes. So today, right now, I'm happy. Good. Oh, tomorrow I'm finding myself a little bit suffering. Okay, why is that? Okay. So let's use this as a learning opportunity. Oh, after I learned, I'm happy again. Oh, good. This is nice. I suffered a little bit, but that gave me a teaching. So, what if the next occurrence of suffering also gives me a little bit more teaching? That's so cool. I'm learning so much about life. Oh, next instance of suffering happens. Oh, great. Now, how can I utilize this to learn more about myself and the world? Oh, no, this one's taking a little bit longer than I expected. Like, this one's a little harder than I thought. Okay. Ooh, another bad thing compounded on top of that. Oh, okay. At this time, I need to reevaluate my priorities, and I need to adjust to this. I need to solve this, like, problem. Okay. So, like, whether I like it or not, I need to be able to solve this problem because my survival is at stake. In that case, what do I do? Okay. So, I could be more stressed about it, but I find that actually being a little bit more like at peace and then thinking about this to be more effective. That's what I learned from the previous 10 instances of suffering. Okay, so, it didn't work? Okay, it didn't work this time, but let me approach this way. They gave me a marginal bit of improvement. Oh, and some projects in life will take years, right? But it's important that we always have this idea of like converging towards, oh, I solved it, and I solved it in a happy way. And in that case, even if you die mid problem solving, you have no regrets, right? You know what? I can genuinely say with my heart in my hand, like, I tried my best. And I know that I can't do everything in the world. I can't visit all the countries in the world, every town in the world. I can't speak all languages in the world. I can't get to have a conversation with everybody in the world. I can't see every bird in the world. But to the best of my knowledge and what was allowed for me, I did my best. And that's ultimately what gives satisfaction, right? No regrets.
You want to avoid the what if conversation, I guess.
Yeah,
And doing your best allows you to avoid the what if conversation.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Does that answer your core question of figuring out what you want?
I definitely have a lot to think about. So yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to. I realized as I typed it was kind of vague, but I wanted it to be kind of vague because it would give me a list of things to kind of think about.
Great,
So yeah,
great.
definitely did that.
All right, let's pause the recording here, but then after that, we'll have a little bit more conversation. All right, thanks for checking out. See you, YouTube. Bye bye.
Take care.